Hello everyone, learn chemistry with Bookem. Today's topic is physical and chemical changes. Matters undergoes two different types of changes. The first one is a physical change and the second one is a chemical change. Physical change are changes that are easily reversible and no new substance are formed. They are easily changed from one state to another and they do not form a new substance. This change may, however, alter the appearance, the shape, the size of the substance without creating a new substance. So the major points you need to note about physical change is that they are easily reversible. That means you can easily get the initial state or the later state. You can easily get them back without getting a new substance. We have some examples of physical changes. The first one is melting of ice, tearing of paper, dissolving sugar in water, mixing green and red marbles, mixing sand and water, and boiling of water. These are all examples of physical changes. Now, I'll be taking the physical changes one after the other. The first one is melting of ice. When you remove an ice cube from your freezer and you put it on the surface inside a container, you notice that after some minutes, the melt will start the ice will start melting. That is, water will start dropping from the surface of the ice, and this changes. This is converted from initial solid, which is the ice, to a liquid state, which is the water. So that is an example of physical change. You can easily reverse it. You can easily change from the ice to water. And if you want to change the water back to that initial state, which is the ice, you can easily put the water back, which is the liquid, inside the freezer, and you are still going to get what your initial state, which is the solid. So it is easily reversible and no new substance is formed. You do not melt ice to get sugar. It is not possible. So when you are melting ice, you are getting water, and you can still put that same water in your freezer and still get the ice back. So that is an example of a physical change. They are easily reversible. You can easily convert them from one state to another and without getting a new substance. The next one is tearing of a paper. Tearing of a paper is also another example of a physical change. When you tear a sheet of paper, you are still getting a paper in return. You are not tearing a sheet of paper to get a pen. It is not possible. So it is easily reversible, and and for you to also get your initial paper, it is possible for you to get your initial paper by gumming it or using a paper tape to hold this together. So that is an example of a physical change. It is easily reversible, but no new substance are formed. Though there might be a change in shape, but you are still getting the initial material you used, initial material. So that is an example of a physical change. The next example of a physical change is dissolving sugar in water. When you dissolve sugar in water, you are still getting a mixture of water and sugar. So by a separation technique, which is distillation, you can easily get your water and you can easily get your sugar back. So that is an example of physical change. You can easily reverse it and you will not get a new substance. So I can't dissolve sugar in water and get something else. I can't dissolve sugar in water and get pepper. It's not possible. So I'm still going to get my sugar and my water. That is an example of a physical change. The next one is mixing of green and red marbles. So when you mix red and blue marbles together, you're still getting your green and red marbles, and it is very easy for you to separate the red marbles from the green marbles. Is an example of physical change. The next one is mixing sand and water. When you mix sand with water, you're still getting your sand and water, and you can also separate your sand from water using a separation techniques called filtration. Using filtration, you can separate your salt and your sand from water. So let's continue. So now the next one is the chemical changes. What is a chemical change? The chemical change is a reverse of a physical change. Just the way we just have as I've explained earlier, that a physical change is easily reversible. Now a chemical change is not easily reversible and new substance are formed. That means you cannot easily change them from their initial state to the latter state, and you are going to get a new substance. You are getting a new substance, so it is not easily reversible, and new substance are formed. This involve the combination of substance to form new material. That means you are combining different substance. You are combining like 2 or 3 substance to form a new material. So that is an example. That is chemical changes. So now an example of chemical changes: iron rusting, burning of wood, baking a cake, baking soda and vinegar mixture. So I'll be taking this example one after the other. So the first example is iron rusting. The rusting of an iron is an example of a chemical change. Initially, before an iron can rust, you need iron, oxygen, and water. So that means the mixture of the three is going to form iron rusting, which is iron hydroxide. So when iron hydroxide is formed, it is not easily reversible. It is not possible for you to get your oxygen and water back and your iron back. So it is not easily reversible. It is difficult to get all those materials back, but new substance are formed. You can say new substance are formed. Initially we have iron, water and oxygen, and at the end of the day we are now having iron hydroxide, which is your rust. So that is an example of chemical change. It is not easily reversible, and it is not easily reversible, and new substance are formed. Another example is the burning of wood. When you are burning your wood, at the end of the day, when the wood is completely burnt, you are going to get an ashes. And for burning to take place, oxygen must be available. So when you are burning, you are combining a lot of things, which is the heat, the oxygen and everything, to produce an ash. So at the end of the day, you cannot get your wood back from the ash again. So that is an example of chemical change. The next one is baking a cake. When you want to bake a cake, you mix your baking soda, you mix your sugar, your flour and everything to bake it, to get a cake. But at the end of the day, there's no how you can get your materials. There's no how you can get your sugar again from your cake after it has been baked. So that is an example of chemical change. It is not easily reversible, and new substance are formed. You can see this is the material used in the baking. This is the material used in the baking, and this is the after product. This is the product, this is the reactant, this is the product. So this is the materials you are using. That means you are combining different materials to form this cake. So at the end of the day, you get a new substance, and you can't get all the materials you use for the baking from the cake after it has been baked. So that is also an example of chemical change. So let's proceed. The next one is differences between physical and chemical change. Like as I've explained earlier, physical change are the changes that are easily reversible and no new substance are formed, while chemical changes are changes that are not easily reversible and new substance are formed. Example of a physical changes: ice melting to give us water, and water also in the presence of it turning to steam. An example of chemical change is iron and iron oxide or iron hydroxide, which is the iron rust. So the key difference between physical change and chemical change is that physical change they form no new substance, while chemical change form new substance. Physical change they are easily reversible, chemical change are not easily reversible. So let's look at this evaluation. Which of the following is an example of a physical change? Mixing baking soda, vinegar together.